Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for being part of this extremely interesting discussion which we'll be having today. And just doing a little bit of mic check. Am I audible, Robin? Okay, cool. So thanks a lot. Today we'll be talking about something which we have seen that is going through a lot of churn, and it also impact directly both the farmers and the consumers. We'll be having two panel discussion and one short presentation by Robin on using a technology in predicting price. But before we go into that, we all know that oilseeds are pretty important when it comes to India in particular and globally also in general. But we have seen that there have been a lot of up and down in the prices. There have been changes in the policy. And when India changes policy, it's just like, elephant in the room moving. And that impacts farmer for sure. We have already seen that when we talk about mustard, we talk about soybean, that farmers has not been able to get the remuneration or rightful remuneration they what should be getting. Similarly, some other crop, for example, sesame, we have seen that while the production in India is dipping, but at the same time, the global markets are acting very differently. Now, to take the discussion forward, I would request Jayesh bhai, we'll start with, I'm saying that not too controversial crop, because I know when we talk about soybean, definitely Kevin and Patak sir would be having very different views on how the policy should be moving around it. Same with the mustard. But when we talk about sesame, it is a very interesting crop. And while India, like, the crop this year has been dipping. So we are looking at like, less than 7 lakh ton being produced and 2.5 lakh being available for trade. What I'll do is that, Jesh bhai, I'll open up the present demand and supply presentation which you have shared. So, and with that context, I would like to have your views on how do you see going forward, right, the sesame trade when we talk about overall demand and supply. So I hope you can see my screen, Jesh bhai.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Deepak. Thanks, everyone. I can see in fact, this is just quickly I asked you whether do we need to prepare any presentation as such, that's the thing. So this is an information perhaps that it will help everyone to understand the last 3 years, the demand supply point of view. The demand supply, I think the supply is almost about 2.5 million tons. It was earlier up to the 2021, 22. The supply was about 2.2 to 2.3 million tons. Last year, we have seen a jump into the supply by almost about 250,000 tons. And the major contributor for that was the China and the Pakistan and the Brazil has come. See, surprisingly, in last 4 years, the Brazil has moved from almost zero to 240, 150,000 tons in the supply. And in fact, their supply, it's growing very rapidly, which could change the dynamics in the coming days when it comes to things. And similarly with the Pakistan was not considered as a key supplier or when it comes to the global demand and supply. But in the last couple of years, they have actually shown a significant increase in their supply such. Last year, the supply was almost about 300,000 things, which has come and additionally about 250,000 tons in as far as the supply is concerned.
Right. So, Jesh bhai, a very simple question to you, like, going forward, like we have seen that while India used to play a very big clout in the sesame, but like, over a decade, we are losing that luster. What could be, according to you, could be the reason behind that? Because when we see that, like, quality of Indian sesame is really good. And actually, like, it is something which has been seen, like, as a premium product. But as we've seen that, at least in past 3 to 4 years, right, we have become pretty stagnant when it comes to our global trade. At the same time, we are also not seeing that level of interest in buyers because specifically in like Middle East and Europe, we are not seeing that much of like offers coming for import of Indian sesame. Any views on that, sir?
Deepak, but I think here we need to leave our emotions on site as such. Being Indian, we love Indian, but I think the India as a country, I think we are not a leading producer as such. I think the many countries in Africa also, they produce the significant quantity compared to the India as such. And what has happened at the thing, if you try and evaluate earlier, we had a dominance when it comes to the supply of the hulled sesame from India. India was apart from Turkey, India was the major, almost 70-80% of the world hulled demand supply was met by the India as such. I think with the years going, I think the Africa has also come up with a lot of processing plants, especially in Nigeria, also into the Somalia, also into the Mozambique. Some of them come up in Ethiopia. Some has come in Sudan as well. So I think that market share which India had, that has now shifted to the other part of the world as such. And surprisingly, like the Pakistan from the last 2 years, actually there are almost about 11 to 12 new hulled processing plant has come up. And I think they did about almost the 25 to 27,000 tons of hulled sesame in the year 2024. So, and even India is concerned, I think the India actually is not paying any attention toward the sesame being a small crop, and I think their priorities are different when it comes to the sesame.
But sir, we have seen that if you see that the MSP, past 3 to 4 years, one of the highest increase in MSP has been for sesame. Right? We are talking about close to 9,267 currently being the MSP of sesame. And when I compare it to like any other oil seed, except Niger seed, which is hardly existing or hardly produced in India, rest everything is 25%, 30% lower than the sesame. And the sesame is also having the benefit of not extensively, but it is also grown in both the season. So India is having such a beautiful opportunity. Do you think because of some other consideration other than this is the government policy that we are losing out this battle?
Well, I was just trying to see the MSP of 67 rupees. If you consider, I think is far below to the world market, to be
No,
honest.
sir, it is 92. Sir, 9,267 per quintal. So that's 92 rupees.
92. So 92, even if you divide by 86, which is about $1,000, $1,050, which is again the far below. Today's world market for the cheapest sesame is anywhere around 1350 to 1370, the thing. So that does not motivate enough the Indian farmers to grow the more sesame.
Right. So, in your view, that in case a policy recommendation is made to the government that actually if we can increase the MSP by another 10-15%, do you think that actually that would help in because you also look very closely India as well, right? Do you think that the farmers would be growing sesame because see other oil seeds are in a big bit of panic, and this is where actually it's when we are able to export 25% of whatever we produce, it's a good news in case we are able to produce for the global markets.
I think Deepak bhai, to be very honest, in my opinion, the India's priorities when it comes to the oil seed, I think sesame will fall as a least priority because there are many other burning issues and more important issues needs to be addressed, considering the way the palm oil is there, where the soybean is the thing. I think the Indian dependency on the import of the palm oil, I think that has gone significantly up the thing. Today, like India is importing almost 10 million tons. So I think when it comes to the oil seed, India will pay much more focus on a edible oil seed, especially which is meant for the edible oil point of view, as opposed to the sesame.
Okay. Jesh bhai, also some views on soybean global condition, because you also delve a little bit in that.
I
know
think
that yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
No, so I know you're I'll say the commodity you love the most is definitely sesame in oilseed and tuar in pulses. But if I want to indulge you, and any views on soybean, sir?
The soybean, to be honest, Deepak, I would be able to just give more information of Africa as such, as opposed to the global trend, because we are more focused on Africa as such. So Africa soybean is concerned. See, their main suppliers are the West Africa, mainly the Nigeria, Burkina, Togo, East Africa, the Mozambique, Malawi, and Tanzania remains the key producers, and obviously Ethiopia is the one thing. The African soybean is concerned, I think we are not focusing as a crushing soybean. We are focusing more on value additions. And I think considering the world market, our demand supply in Africa is, it's almost balanced. In fact, we need the soybean locally. So export is not a much of focus when it comes to the Africa point of view, the thing.
Excellent view, Jayesh Bhai. And in fact, sorry, I didn't introduce you. So Jayesh Bhai is CEO of Big Group and one of the sharpest brain when it comes to oilseed and pulses business globally. And his views on Africa are actually a lot of people wait to listen to and then make a call what to do. Now, I would like to go to someone who also know Africa pretty well. And Alok ji is again a legend. So, sir, Jayesh Bhai, Alok ji, Patak Saab, Kevin. I'm so honored that actually I'm having legends who guide me every day, right, in my journey. Thanks a lot for that. Alok ji, over to you. And Alok ji is the director at Praram. Beautiful name, Praram itself, because well started is half done. So, Alok ji, your views on that? How do you see typically like in oilseed coming out from Africa for global consumption, sir?
Yeah, no, Jayesh has told something. I will just add to what Jayesh has said. India basically has lost the market share, especially I'm talking about seesmic. They lost the market share because of two reasons. One, China is not allowing duty free to them. Number two, Japan is having a lot of pesticide issues. So they restricted, actually not banned, they restricted Indian seed into their market long back. And that is where we have seen African countries taking opportunity and started growing and then increasing their production. I remember, Jayesh Bhai will vouch that when we started seed, the production was hardly 40, 50,000 ton in a country and 10,000, less than 10,000 ton in Uganda. Today, everything is 150, 120,000 plus. Nigeria from 100 is now 350, 360,000 ton. So they have increased the production because probably China, because China is 50% of the total demand China takes. If the demand, I think as per data shared by Jayesh is around 2.2, then 1.1 China is importing. So 50% is China for seed. So these are the mainly two things which probably hurt the Indian seed as far as the market share is concerned. And the third thing, when Brazil and other countries they started growing seed, they started offering very cheap in the market. So Indians probably thought it is better to import at 1160 rather than buying at 92. 92 rupees is just MSP. But when you actually go into the real uh, season scenario, you will not get 110, below 110, 112. So for them, and 1160 Brazil is today. In fact, in the last few years, we have seen $900, $950, $1,000 below the market, actually, below the world market they are selling. So this is one of the reason where people will think, why should I grow and take it when so much cheaper cargo is available in the market? And Brazil, 140, 130,000 production, they are targeting 500,000 ton in next 5 years, probably if the China allow them to import. China is allowed, but probably they have not announced it, but they've more or less agreed to allow Brazil imports into their country. So it will again affect, the Indian seed market. But not to mention, India has got its own consumption. All the remedies, all the gajak and everything beside oil. There are a lot of items which are made out of sesame seed, especially from November to February when the winters are there, which will remain as it is. I don't think it will affect anything. So this is why I think there is, if India has to improve their production in sesame seed, they have to improve probably on the points like special treatment to duty to the country which is buying highest quantity or having this pesticides issue, which I don't think they can get away with this so easily. So this is what I think Indian sesame seed, why it is reducing and why it is going. Every year we are seeing the reduction in the quantity.
No, I totally agree,
Um,
Alok bhai. Actually, like, we consume 500,000 ton of sesame, like, always. Like,
yeah.
in fact, as you rightly said, from October to Feb, My mom is
Yeah.
always pestering me with all these chikkis and the til papadis and all that because of the health benefit which sesame is having. Definitely, we might not be having hummus and all that, but our Indian food also we use extensively the sesame. And also coming to soybean, any views on that? Because that has also been a very volatile market even globally. If we are seeing not just in India, we'll talk about it, and Patak sir would definitely guide us on that. But we are seeing that globally also, it has been pretty the market which have been under severe pressure.
Soybean Africa export only when the world market prices, or I would say India or Pakistan, or importing country prices is more than what they are actually consuming. What I meant is, if the market goes above $650, then only Africa will export. If you feel, if the market remains $500 or $520, African countries they are consuming all the soya grown in their country themselves. So they don't feel like to export the quantity. That is what it was happening. Last 3 years, we have seen a lot of soya because the market was such. The market went to 900, market went to 800, which African farmers has not seen those kind of prices. So most of the cargo was exported. But as soon as the market came down to 500, around $500 cost and freight basis, you have not seen not a single kilo has been exported this year from any of the African country, whether it is West, whether it is in East Africa. Primary reason is Africa, they consume themselves. There is a lot of factories over there. Still, every year there is an addition in the soya meal factory or soya oil factory down there. And the necessity of exporting is less as compared to any other product. Like sesame seed, if you ask, most of the country have no option but to export it. So they will export it, but not in soya. Soya, if they have option of, consuming locally, they will not go for the export at all. This is what it has happened. So despite being Nigeria producing more than 1.2 million ton of crop, we have not seen a single kilo going out of Nigeria this year, because the prices are not matchable. Prices are still very high there, more than $800 x the growing area. That's the cost going on there, and still everyone is. I mean, all the factories are consuming and buying because of the local market. They are getting support from the local market. Similarly, if you look at in East Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, or all the neighboring countries. I'm not talking about Mozambique, but all other countries. If you see, none of the country has exported this year because they have enough consumption. In fact, they are importing soya meal from India. And in fact, yesterday only, someone called me from West Africa, and he is asking soybean seed for importing to Nigeria and Ivory Coast. So everything is, just opposite this year for Africa. So that's what I feel. If the prices are not so good, then we will not see anything happening in Africa markets.
Right. So, Alokji, one more question to you. As you touched upon soya meal. So now soya meal, we have
Yeah.
already seen that globally the price has from 2023, when we talk
Yeah.
say 2023-24 season to 24-25 season, it has crashed back close to 20%. Right. And that is also creating a lot of problem in India because as you know, soya is not just about soya oil, but it is also about until unless you get right price for meal, you are the crushing plants are never profitable. How do you see going forward? Is the soya meal prices are going to remain so low, or you also see that they can still go down south, or do you think that the recovery is round the corner?
I feel, recovery should be down the corner as far as the Indian subcontinent is concerned, because the reason India is only non-GMO soya, correct? I mean, they don't go for the GMO soya. So as such, to get the lower value cargo for the raw material cargo, they will not be having so much of the options. So, and GMO soya to fall below certain level is not thinkable as of now. So I don't think there will be a further downfall as far as the soya beans or soybean related product or soya meal is concerned. Only thing is how much up it can go. So there is a restriction on that because of the probably the liquidity problem which we are seeing even in pulses market. You know, you will feel that the certain product is previous in the last year you were feeling that certain products are overpriced. Now this year you are feeling that the products are underpriced, but that could be because of the liquidity, not because that the product is bad or the destination is bad. No, there is either overstocking or there is something wrong going on there. So that's what I feel in soybean. My view is that it should not go down further, and we should see the positive response in that rather than going down.
Now, Aloji, you also delve into multiple commodities just as an anecdote, right? The pulses trade, though I'm going
Hmm.
tangential, this year has been just like fish. Fish you give as much as possible, it will eat and die, right? So yellow peas is the best example that actually like the trade has put on their own, have shot on their own foot, right? With the type of
Yes,
imports
yes,
and dumping, and that has dried out the complete commodity market with money, because oilseed pulses generally you'll find that traders group together, right? So for grains you'll be having different type of people, and veg oils you'll be having different, but when it comes to oilseed
different
and
kind of
pulses,
people.
they work together, with this
Yes,
commodity, and now there is no liquidity, the money is stuck.
there's no
And
liquidity.
yeah, so and
Yeah,
anyways
that's the
you know better
biggest
than me.
problem. Yeah, no, not only yellow peas. If you look at chana, it is the same story.
So
But
started with yellow
why
peas,
people?
then infected
Yeah,
tuar, and then actually now chana. And God knows,
yes,
I'm seeing that lentils also going that path.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So now we'll go to Patak Saab. Patak Saab, the man in the room who always is very vocal about the farmer's interest, right? And someone who is always have heart on his sleeves when it comes to farmer. So we have seen that when it comes to soybean, our farmer did terrific job, and depending on which numbers you see, like you are looking at 12.9 to 3.38 million metric, 13.38 million metric tons, right, being produced in India, but farmer were not able to get the MSP, sir. And that is being I believe going forward would be a challenge, because with the ethanol policy government is having on the maize, we might see that farmer moving away. Sir, your views on the overall supply demand, and also please touch upon the soya meal part also, because we have seen that the government support is not coming when they need it the most. Over to you, Patak sir.
First of all, I'll promise that I will not oppose anybody today, and I will be in sync with all of you.
सर मैं टीआरपी गिरा दिया आपने, my TRPs are gone.
So coming back to soybean, see this year, particularly there are 2-3 factors which have really affected the industry and the farmers both. Firstly, we have an excess of production of roughly 30 million tons world over. Now the demand does not grow at that rate. A second big factor which we have seen in India specific is the use of DDGS in soybean meal. That's quite cheap and quite a good product. So that's affected the crushing in India. And these two things have together kept the prices low, because we see there is a huge supply, and we said that the demand is not moving up. That's what has kept the prices low. And I hope we have seen the bottom of soybean prices, because the government has already stepped in and bought a lot of stock, about 1.8 million tons. Going forward, I am certainly in sync with you, saying that farmers certainly will move away from soybean if he sees no value in this, because the kind of price, the kinds of deficiency he has seen in prices, for 4,000 rupees, 4,100 rupees per quintal against an MSP of 4,900, that's a big loss. And the farmer certainly, I am expecting that there will be a drop in acreage next year. To that extent, we will lose the area, and most of the area will be gained by perhaps corn or some other crop. But soybean is likely to lose a big chunk of area. That's my take.
So one more question, because you rightly said that government intervened, but sir, the level of intervention which was required, right, it was very patchy, right? First of all, we haggled, we have to push everybody, including you, sir, to ensure that the moisture thing is taken care of, and then there was initially not very enthusiasm by government to buy it, while they have declared the policy to buy it. But again, what they did last year for mustard, right? What they procure from Hafed, or the Markfed of Rajasthan and all that. they give stability to the mustard farmer at least last year. This year, God knows. But they were not, I'm saying that that's supportive of soya. Do you see when government doesn't want that actually, like, we should be growing this much of soya? Do you think that also could be a sense?
Now, that's a huge question which you have thrown in the ring. I do have some friends in the industry who keep propagating that why should we grow soya? We are wasting area. But I think all of us are forgetting that it's a protein crop. And we do need 70, 80 lakh tons of protein every year. Now, if we do not grow soya, then are we suggesting that we should import soybean? And the moment I say that, there'll be a lot of political halabula. So I think we should grow soya. The problem is in the productivity. It's not on anything else. The productivity is low, and for last 30, 40 years it has been low. And the work on that should be done. From the industry, we keep already doing chest thumping and say government kuch karti nahi hai. But I think it's our job also. The industry should get involved in soybean development. I see some stalwarts on the screen. None of them invest a single penny in soybean. They only see an opportunity in importing and then trading. Why not invest in soybean, help the farmers rather than making lip noises that soybean farmer is suffering? The industry should come forward in their own areas and they should invest in soybean development programs like the cane people do, like the sugar industry does. And that should help. The government always moves slower than they should. And that's universally true of anything. They should have started buying much earlier. And they should, in fact, not have bought at all. They should have allowed the industry to buy and paid this money which they are paying. Otherwise, they will be paying the difference through a bhavantar, price deficiency mechanism. There is a scheme existing for last 3 years, but there are no takers because the scheme is built or done so that private sector is not assured that they will get the price deficiency money back from the government. Anything which goes to the government, very difficult to get it back. So that didn't work. So they had to go to NAFED and NCCF to buy. If they'd allowed the bhavantar, they would have been much better off. They would have saved a lot of money. The industry would have bought the beans at the right price. The farmer would have got the things, and the inefficiencies and the wastage all would have been saved. But then the government is government. In their own wisdom, they allowed the purchase by the government agencies. So I hope they've learned some lessons. And next time, I think there is already a discussion going on in the government. Why not bring in PDPS, a Bhavantar scheme, in a modified form and involve, let's say, the associations in that work? So whatever the deficiencies were there, if people made fake money, that can be avoided. And the best then would be for the industry to buy direct from the farmers and the government to reimburse direct to the farmers. That would be best to do. We'll see what happens. I don't know whether the government will do this or not, or whether we will have a good mechanism. But we are working on that, finding a mechanism that the industry gets involved in direct buying rather than the government agencies.
No, sir, I totally agree. This is PM Asha scheme. In fact, I did a stakeholder meeting with the Secretary Agriculture and a lot of stakeholders last year. Unfortunately, the gap which exists, and from the private sector also, I've seen that they are not, when government want to do something, they also become very, very rigid. So, for example, you'll be surprised, somebody, I don't want to name it, said that actually in case you delay payment, what penalty you will pay us? Then that offends the government. That government doesn't pay penalties, right, for delayed payment. So those things happen. Sir, any views on mustard? Because what I'm seeing is that, with the type of what is government already having because of the previous year's purchase, and this year also, things are not going to be that bad that actually you won't have too much of glut of mustard. Do you see the same thing is going to repeat what happened in soybean in Rabi for mustard? Any views on that, sir?
Mustard area has gone down. I think Nirav is here. He may have some other views. He may have some views on mustard. But mustard area is down this year by 5 to 7%. So to that extent, the crop will be down. We don't know the weather going forward, how it behaves. There's a very crucial 30, 40 days for mustard crop to develop. And if the weather plays truant, then we may have productivity loss also. So, but we still have a large crop. Last year it was about 12.5 million tons. We will still have a large crop to cater to. And I am sure NAFED will again have to buy mustard if the price is not supported by other factors. The meal also is the effect on soybean meal is also being fed by the rapeseed meal of DDGS. So all these factors we'll have to see how mustard behaves. I can't say today because we have to see how the crop comes in.
Yes, sir. Our estimate is that actually we might end up with like, a crop of close to 11.15 to 11.35 million metric ton, unlike what you stated for last year. But still that problem exists. And thanks a lot, sir, for sharing your views. Now I would like to go to Kevin. So Kevin, thanks a lot for joining. So you have heard about all the discussion we are having. And Mr. Pathak very rightly said that actually there is always a challenge when it comes to like, the productivity of Indian soya farmer. While we have imported close to 3.14 million metric tons of soya oil, which would have been maybe produced by using GMO as well, but we are not very keen to import GMO or not allow our farmers to produce GMO soybean. Being someone from the US Soya Export Council, what are your overall views on that? How the India should move in that direction, and how do you think like Indian productivity can be increased? Over to you, sir.
Well, thanks a lot, Deepak. It's a great privilege and honor to be with you here. I really appreciate the invitation, and thanks a lot to all my fellow panelists. I've already learned so much listening to the discussions that it's really, really incredible and a valuable use of everyone's time, I think. So I think the question that you've asked is really, really fundamental. And I think there are a couple of different pathways that India can look at. And the decisions are obviously above my pay grade. And people much, much smarter than me. But let's just say, kind of to distill it down, generally, I'm very big fan of letting market-oriented objectives facilitate commercial interests. And so, what that means is I think we have to kind of assess some of the playing fields here for a little bit. One, India has the second lowest productivity of soybeans in the entire world, number two. Number two, they haven't grown in the last 20 to 30 years. Productivity hasn't grown in the last 20 to 30 years. This in the context or the backdrop of the fact that we've also seen, as a result, some of the highest productivity gains across the world in that same time. So those two factors, I think, are interesting for India policymakers to kind of look at and take into consideration. Next, the Indian soy crush industry is running at 30% capacity, more or less. So there's a tremendous amount of capacity underutilization and resources that can be unlocked in India just by alleviating some of those policy constraints that I think could really, really bode well for making India provide a tremendous amount of jobs, augment local industry, augment local production, not displace or not replace local production, but actually augment it, reduce prices, especially on the poultry aspect, on the aquaculture aspect, and I think be a real win-win situation for the crushers, for the poultry producers, and actually for the Indian farmers as well. And I think one of the examples that we have to look at is China. China produces approximately twice the amount of soybeans that India does. It's also the ancestral home of the soybean, and yet it's also the world's #1 importer of soybeans as well. Also, one interesting fact to look at is that in the backdrop of China moving from a net exporter to the world's largest importer, approximately 100 million tons, more or less every year, their local production has doubled. So they've gone from approximately 10 million tons to 20 million tons in that same time. So not only has the Chinese soybean farmer continued to thrive, he's actually flourishing and really, really seeing some of the success stories of what it means to unload a lot of capital and invest in R&D in China's situation. It's the swine sector, but it could be certainly that case of the poultry sector in India.
No, sure, Kevin. So, in fact, if you ask me, I've been a vocal supporter of GMO, right? I know that when I'm saying it publicly, and I've done it multiple times. And then actually after that, for next 7 days, I get a lot of bricks being thrown at me. One of the reasons being that actually, when we are importing, as I said, more than 3 million metric tons of soya oil, which you don't know actually what is the origin, eventually it can be created from the GMO seed. Then why not give an opportunity to Indian farmers? Now, in case let's go to a hypothetical situation like that eventually 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, because if you are aware, Indian government has done one thing. So there is a technology called CRISPR-Cas, which is actually genetic editing. It's not modification; it's editing. In that SDN1 and SDN2, in which you don't impregnate any alien DNA into existing phenotype, that is made legal, right? And that's not considered a GMO in India. Do you think that, the global players and specifically those companies which are having a little bit deeper pocket based out of US or Europe, do you think they would be keen in, also working on the productive part of it? Because Pataks have told very clearly that a lot of effort which requires in increasing the productivity in India, it's not been done by the local players. So I'm saying that in the Cash 22 situation, that without investment, you cannot have productivity. Without productivity, you cannot have investment. So do you think that, maybe pushing a little bit on GMO side would unlock that possibility of investments?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. I mean, I would love to be on a panel someday where you have some of the biotech and life science companies to answer that question. My own personal opinion, I'm a very big fan and supporter and proponent of GMOs. GMOs are now an old technology. They've been in production for approximately 30 years. They've had trillions of meals. And of the GMOs that have been commercialized, there hasn't been one sneeze, sniffle, cough, rash, illness, or allergy related to any single one on the market. They're one of the most thoroughly researched and studied items in food production today. And those that have been approved, researched, are just as safe as their non-conventional opponents. That said, I'm also a very big fan of choice. So if a consumer wants to, pay a premium for non-GMO, I strongly support that. If a consumer doesn't have the abilities to do so, I also support that consumer choice, as well as choice across the entire supply chain should be available to those. With respect to CRISPR-Cas9, I think you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. This is a tremendous revolutionary technology that is really kind of where a lot of the innovative plant breeding technologies is moving to. Thankfully, India has already stated they're not going to regulate it as a GMO. And so I think that was a decision made in the right direction. But I think for India to really kind of hone in on some indigenous technologies and do so at home, I think there needs to be some real serious conversations with respect to intellectual property protection, as well as technology transfer that probably needs to be taking place across several different ministries.
No, I share your views, Kevin. In fact, I also believe that the choice for paying premium for GMO is always there. But we have created a campaign, actually, we need GMO now. So that is what actually we have been trying to push to all stakeholders, including government, because I see that, in long term, you have to move with the markets because of the type of productivity. In fact, the last number for oilseed per hectare productivity in India is close to 1.368 tons, right? That is too low to even take care of it. That's why we are seeing that 60 to 70%, or more than close to 60% of edible oil in India is imported, and we cannot become self-reliant unless we adopt technology. Yes, we have to be careful about how it is regulated in a way that actually, the negative part of it is taken care of, and all we need to be agile in case something goes wrong. Then we are actually able to take care of it very fast. And with that, actually, I would just like to ask all my panelists one by one, starting with you, Kevin. So if we have to see globally oilseed, right? Do you see that actually any specific type of technology or policy intervention globally which is required? Because globally oilseed is going through a pain, right? Whether we are talking about obviously veg oil is increasing, but oilseed are down, oil meals are down. So what would be your recommendation on technology or policy for the rest of the world? Actually, what needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good kind of closing thought here. And I think in doing so, you have to look at a couple things in context. One, production in Brazil continues to increase steadily. Rains right now during their harvest period looks at maybe impacting their quality. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on that. So I think on one hand, you have a significant increase in production, especially driven by South America. On the other hand, you have an interesting kind of dynamic playing out with respect to biofuels. Obviously Indonesia has their B40 blend mandate. The U.S. is now looking at renewable diesel or green diesel, which is not biodiesel. It's a separate product, and some implications with respect to tax code and tax policy are still kind of unclear at this moment as it pertains to used cooking oil, or more specifically imported used cooking oil. But we remain optimistic that the crush capacity kind of globally, both in the U.S. and driven mainly by Brazil, will continue to expand. Crush margins in the U.S. are still relatively strong, approximately $1.15 bushel, which is much stronger than it was certainly when I was in the crush industry, but much lower than they have been in the past couple of years, which kind of implies a bit of pressure. And so I think those two things are very interesting to keep an eye on. One, production and productivity expansion in South America, and then biofuel policy kind of across the entire world. And you can throw a sustainable aviation fuel into that mix as well.
Right, perfect. Pathak Sahab, your views that what two things you think need to be done to ensure we are a little bit better as an oilseed sector globally as well as India?
We'll look at India first, because we are already importing 16 million tons of edible oils. I think the answer is very obvious. We need to increase productivity all across. Also, we need to perhaps we're using 1 million hectare area for sunflower. Now that's gone down almost to nil. So that's a diversification which is required urgently. We need to grow something, because that's a staple oil which is used along with other oils. Palm program is already there in Northeast. We need to sort of accelerate that. So three things. One is increase productivity in mustard, have back area in sunflower, productivity increase in soybean, more area for palm oil, and policies which are conducive to help the farmer make a choice that he should grow oil seeds rather than other crops, because if he does not get the remunerated price, he will not grow it. So we have to have a policy which can be regulated by customs duties, that the farmer should get the MSP. And this is something which is doable. I don't know, we have a bogey of this thing. We have a great threat that the consumer will go away, the prices should be regulated, price should be low and low. But how much low? There has to be a benchmark price for everything. Now, if I take the of oil. Now, 60 kgs of oil per year, that's not much when you talk of inflation. I think it's a hype which has been created that oil is adding to inflation, and everybody is riding on that bandwagon of that hype that inflation is being caused by edible oil. It's not. The other thing, of course, we can perhaps reduce our consumption of oil, which is already going up. But then my friends in the industry wouldn't like me to say that, so I'll say it with a rider. These are the things which we can do: increase productivity, make it conducive for the farmer to grow more, crop diversification. We should grow mustard and soybean, Punjab, Haryana, rather than paddy, wheat. And if the government has to shell out some money to move the farmers away from these crops, so be it. Let them do that, because we are importing so much money is being spent in foreign exchange. So let it be done. This will also help the soil, which is being degraded very, very fast in Punjab, Haryana. And if they do not stop growing paddy wheat every year, I'm afraid we are in for some big shocks there. So that's my take.
Perfect, sir. Perfect, sir. Very, very well articulated, and I totally agree with you. And as you rightly said, we have to understand that oil basket only contribute 1.18% of the 100% of our inflation number, and similarly pulses 0.68. But सबसे ज़्यादा आवाज तभी उठती है जब it is तेल और दाल. Now, I would request Jayesh Bhai and Alok ji, if Jayesh Bhai first, if you can just share your process, what needs to be done.
Look, I think on a policy matters, as Kevin said, I also support the every decision should be the commercially viable, and the policy should be made on those basis. So I too support the GMO, but I think what happens, there is a big difference between the developed nations and I would say the undeveloped nations as such. So GMO basically it's a sort of not as such that there is any gain to it, but non-GMO, but it gives a little bit protections to the farmers versus the cheap imports from the Brazil or from the US as such the thing. So that's the only reason what is a non-GMO versus GMO is helping. Otherwise, I don't think so. There should be any barriers when it comes to the the GMO versus non-GMO policy is concerned.
Perfect. Alokji, your view, sir?
I feel the same. The policy should be consistent, I think. That's the more beneficial to the trade, you know. If it keeps on fluctuating like we are seeing now in last few years, then it's a problem for the trade. But if it is stable and consistent, you know, we can still make it.
Perfect. So I and with a small note here, actually, like whenever you talk GMO, actually, I'm scared of only two women. Both of them need start with Vandana. One is anti-GMO activist, and other is my wife. Thank you. And we now go to our next session. So actually, when we talk about oilseed and veg oil, and we know that actually the type of trade happened, and India dependent on imports a lot on veg oil part of it. There the prices become very critical, and we have seen that very recently. The deep sea has shaken the market when it comes to AI. It has again instilled the confidence that country like India and China, which are not having so much a deep pocket of putting billions of dollars in buying those costly GPUs and TPUs, can still make something out of artificial intelligence ecosystem. And with that, I would like to give floor to Robin Panwala, who is a dear friend, and I'm also advisor in this company called Agriculture.ai, which is working on predicting prices of different type of commodities, agriculture commodities using AI. So, Robin, you are having roughly 8 to 9 minutes. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, that warm introduction. Wonderful to be on this roundtable today and speak about what we are building at Accuro. We are excited to be building. We are actually building an AI product which is specifically for the commodities industry. We are partnering with global AI labs to ensure that we are at the forefront of AI technology. I'd like to spend a minute on who we are and the team. My name is Robin Panwala. I'm a co-founder here at Accuro. I'm the former India head for a company called Sequence AI. This is one of America's fastest growing companies. I have spent more than a decade in Silicon Valley. I have experience at top technology companies, as you can see from my profile. And over the last 10 plus years, I've been building AI software products. My co-founder, Pranav Verma, he comes from IIT. He's a pioneer in building AI systems from India. He's been recognized by American computer scientists. And he's been building data science and AI products for the top global companies for a very long time. Deepak Parikji is our chief advisor and mentor, the man who needs no introduction. So, what basically, what are we trying to do here? So we say that Accuro is actually building the future of commodity intelligence. As you know by now, AI is hot, and we have always known the power of AI, and we wanted to bring the power of AI into the commodities sector. So our use case is to bring AI into the problem statement of doing commodity price forecasting. Now, what happens is commodity markets have unique challenges. Price movements in the commodity markets are influenced by a complex web of factors. There is the whole aspect of climate change. Where there is all sorts of weather patterns which change. There is also geopolitical shifts. There is supply chain dynamics, and there is also rapidly changing regulations. Now, on top of that, vast amounts of unstructured data which comes from diverse sources. How do you reconcile everything to ensure that you have sufficient analytics done to be able to do timely decision making? So what I want to enlighten this panel today is that today's AI offers unprecedented capabilities that we have never seen before. We can understand and predict complex market relationships which were previously impossible. And what this is doing is it is going to create benefits that have never been seen before. It will lead to enhanced decision making. It will help us analyze markets more effectively. It will enable better trading and procurement decisions. It's going to boost profitability for people in trading. It's going to help you make informed trading decisions. For people who are into procurement, this will lead to better cost efficiencies into your procurement cycles. Optimize your procurement timing and also reduce your operational costs. And people who are into risk management, this will lead to better sort of managing price volatility, because now you are going to be having data-driven hedging strategies. And I want to show you some examples, going forward. But what I wanted to mention is that AI is not a nascent technology anymore. It's not niche anymore. It is mainstream. And we are in the middle of a technological revolution. And every industry across the world is currently getting transformed by AI, and it is going to deliver tangible results. Right? So what are we doing differently here? So on the commodity side, if I wanted to predict prices for a certain commodity, my first approach has to be building a data intelligence platform. Because there are so many factors at play. In fact, I have a better slide. There are so many factors at play. There is macroeconomics, there is fundamentals, there is market sentiment, there is energy and inputs, there is events, there is geopolitics. How do you reconcile all of this and able to come up with a forecast that actually gives you an accuracy never seen before? So what we really want to do is that rather than enterprises drowning in multiple data feeds and reports and PDFs and news articles, we want to give you that unified view that combines all these factors and eventually helps you make efficient decisions. So this will result into clear trading and procurement signals. So ultimately, the goal is to get to stress-free decision making. Right? So this is the power of AI. And we do this kind of a data intelligence for every single commodity that we analyze today. This is a slide on, it's a little bit of a technology slide on what we do, how we do it. The key takeaway from here is that we provide as of date forecasts. So we provide forecasts, our algorithms analyze multiple data points and provide forecasts for up to 30 days in advance. So if it's let's say if it's a futures contract, we would be able to provide next 30 days forecast for let's say contracts which last up to the next 9 months. So let's say sitting in January, we would be giving you trading forecast for the next 30 days for a contract, let's say somewhere around September, October as well. So right from January till October, we would be able to give you next 30 days forecast. We also give clear trading signals, buy-sell signals. And this slide actually, we actually won a National Innovation Award for innovation in commodity markets from Grains World last month. We were able to give them a demo of our technology, and we won this award. We were actually pitched against some of the very large, very well-funded companies, but we were lucky enough to be able to win this award over there. Now, how does this translate into how do we make this technology available for everybody here? So we are going to be launching inside of the app stores, on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. And then we are going to be starting out with an early access program on February 26th, next month. We are starting currently with 3 major agricultural commodities. Our focus initially has been on markets which have significant trading volumes, and it's got global influence. And among them, crude palm oil, for the BMD futures, which is really the world's benchmark for palm oil trading, is one of them. And we are soon going to be coming up even with the soybean oil on CBOT as well. Now, I have to show you a little sneak preview of what this technology has been able to achieve. So if you see on the left side, let's focus on the left side. What you'll see is that our AI forecasting engine is
Robin, just
giving
1 minute
you...
more for you.
Sure. Oh, 1 minute more. Okay. Our forecasting engine, if you focus on the left slide, the left image on the slide, this is an AI-driven prediction. After taking into account the entire data intelligence layer, it's showing you expected price movement over the next 30 days. The dots on the graph are showing you actionable recommendations on when the dips are expected, buy and sell recommendations. On the buy side, the dips, the sell side, the peaks. and it tells you how prices are expected to evolve over a period of time. On the right side, we believe that people will be able to better trust an AI system if you bring transparency into it. So we are not only giving forecast, we are also tracking and validating our accuracy. And this is real accuracy from our systems. This is Accuro's historical accuracy, and this we have tracked in the month of November 2024 while we were building out the system. We measure accuracy on two parameters. One is a market trend accuracy in terms of the market direction, whether what is our AI engine saying? Is it saying the price is going to go up or down tomorrow? And how accurate were we? And we are measuring anywhere around 95% accuracy in market direction accuracy. On the price front, which is tracking how close our forecast came to the actual prices, we are tracking close to 94% accuracy. And we are getting better at it every single day. When we look at the industry, we see that accuracies have been typically hovering around 75, 76% accuracy, and that has been the industry benchmark so far. We believe that we significantly bring a completely innovative system which has the potential to give industry-leading accuracy at this point through the power of today's AI. Okay. So yes, we are launching. We will be rolling out early access next month, February 26. We are starting with 3 major commodities, and we have a very aggressive expansion roadmap. Our AI models are being trained on additional commodities as we speak. And please, if you have any questions, you can reach out to info@accuro.ai.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Robin. Can you stop sharing? So we go to our next panel discussion. Yeah, cool. So now we get into the next panel discussion, which is on veg oils. And I start with the prefix that actually, this year we have been able to reduce our, I'm talking about 2024-25 marketing season. We have been able to reduce our exposure in way of imports of vegetable oil. So we might end this year by close to 1 million metric ton less imported. But when we see 25-26, we estimate at KYC that actually we may again import roughly 1.5 million metric ton more than what was this year. So again, going to more than era of close to 16 million metric ton of imports. I start with Sandeep Bajoria ji. Sir, thanks a lot for participating in this discussion. And over to you, sir, being the master of the trade. And just for those, while everybody might be knowing Sandeep by for sure, but who those know, actually, he's one of the sharpest mind, tracks global trade extensively, and have been accurate far more times than not. Sometimes even I would say that more accurate than Accuro possibly. Sandeep bhai, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Deepak bhai and the team. And I have my dear friend Prashant Reddy also on the line. He's a veteran in this field. So I think it's going to be interesting. Mr. Alok Bhargava, Jayesh Patel is already there. And we had an interesting presentation from Robin on AI for the commodity forecasting. So I think, Robin, yes, you have chosen right commodities to work with. It is crude palm oil and seabed soybean oil. These are one of the major traded commodities world over, and it's very important for India as well. So definitely we'd like to look at your product. And coming to the situation in the veg oil, you see our own production is 10 million ton. Our import is roughly about 16 million ton. Total consumption in India is about 26 million ton. So it a population of 1.44 billion people, it amounts to 18.5 kgs per person per year. That's what it is. Prime Minister made a statement yesterday that we should reduce the edible oil consumption by 10%. Probably he had more in his mind. All the Gujaratis were eating fried food and consuming edible oil like anything. So, however, a poor population needs to eat much more, and the economically higher segment, which is consuming roughly about 25 to 35 kgs per person per year, should reduce. And the poor section in UP, Bihar and other states, Orissa and other, which are consuming only 8, 9, 10 kgs, they should go up. It's going to be like that. Now, 3 major imported oils, all of you know, is palm oil, which is roughly about 9 to 9.5 million ton, but this year it's going to be lower. This year the palm oil production is not going to be, import is not going to be more than 8 million tons because palm prices have been pretty high in last 6 months. So the palm imports are going to come down by about a million and a half. And soybean import, which was around 3.5, 3.8 million ton, is going to go up to 4.5, 4.8 million tons. So we'll see a growth of about 1 million ton, 1.2 million ton in soybean. Sunflower import, which was about 3.3 to 3.5 million tons, is going to be something around similar levels, so maybe 100K lower. So overall, we'll touch about 15.8 to 16 million tons this oil year. Oil year, when I say it amounts to 1st November 2024 to 31st October 2025. This is what we call oil year in particular. And coming to India, the world's largest importer of veg oils. Like for the seeds, China is the largest importer. They import over 100 million tons of soya seed and they import rapeseed and that also. So India, world's largest importer of seed is China and world largest importer of veg oil is India. And as you know, the import cost is about $18 billion, 17 to $18 billion. So with this kind of a situation, I think prices wise, we have seen international prices fluctuating pretty heavily in the band of $200, which we saw that soybean oil was as high as $1,250 and as low as $970. And crude palm oil was as high as about $1,340 and as low as something around $1,000, 1,000. So that has been the $1,050 for the forwards. And sunflower oil was in the range of higher side, it was $1,300 and the lower side, it was $1,115. So in the band of $200, the prices have been moving since last 6 months, we saw. And but with this kind of heavy fluctuation in prices, and we do not have any forecasting mechanism here in India, our local futures are no more working. And so people who are like medium SME players having a lot of difficulty to hedge their price risk, while the bigger ones have access to CBOT and access to MDEX. But there also in soybean oil, CBOT is not a perfect hedge because CBOT oil is moving in one direction, premiums are moving in another direction. Prashantji would be enlightening that sometimes CBOT becomes an island itself because of the lot of soybean oil for biodiesel and renewable diesel. And so that hedge is also not very workable hedge. So all these problems are there practically that to survive in vegetable oil industry is not an easy game. I can tell you, it's an organized industry, well set industry. Defaults in the contracts are not there in this industry. Most of the players are very matured players and they care for their name, reputation, the quality and all that. So if you look at the other commodities like pulses and all, where things are not still that big, very well organized, and against that, veg oil is very well organized. Payment terms are clearer, faster. LC or CAD payment in the local oil trade also. If you do it is never it is either CAD or third day, 4th day payment or max 7 days payment. So that way, veg oil industry is very well organized, and but fluctuations are very heavy. To manage yourself into this fluctuation, and then out of 12 months in a year, we face parity only 2-3 months, where you have good parity means you have good margins, and another 2-3 months is like you feel will have neutral margins, but 5 or 6 months will be always working on a negative margins. So that's a big challenge. How do you, at the end of the year, how you try and balance your books and still show some positive returns? So I believe this is a big challenge. For this, you require a person like Prashant Bhai, who knows he knows when to get into Chakravyuh and when to get out. So oil industry is like a Chakravyuh. So all these heavy fluctuations started from November, December, January. So I think he closed his books very early on 15th of November, saying that I made good money now. I don't want to do anything more and just want to relax. And I think that was one of the best decisions he took. So in this industry, you should know when to act and when to be silent. So जैसे बताते योगा में मौन व्रत भी बहुत जरूरी है इस इंडस्ट्री में. So I think this is kind of a backup and scenario. With this, I would like to put the house to the speakers.
Excellent, Sandeep bhai. Very articulate, perfectly on the point. And yes, we all know Prashant ji is like, he knows how to make money in such a choppy trading environment. So Prashant ji will go next to you only, like, give your secret sauce that actually how to make money when actually like, there is a 15 to 20% upside downside in this commodity. And later on, Sandeep ji would also like, Sandeep Hansa will also chip in. And with like, about the policies, about the scarcity, suddenly we find that Indonesia is having too much or sometimes too less. And then actually, like, while the trade wants 10% increase in import duty, the government gives you 20% as a Diwali bonus. Your views on, sir, actually, like, how do you see the market going forward? And also touch upon some supply and demand numbers if you have them.
Yeah. I mean, last year was a perfect example where you have seen palm oil, which is considered as the cheapest oil, traded expensive almost throughout the year. Sun oil kind of considered as one of the expensive oil, traded cheapest. So this is the kind of reverse swing, U shape or V shape, whatever you call, kind of trades that we have witnessed, in the oil markets in the last 1 year, and volatility has been tremendous. To significantly track this volatility or price measures, I would say the slide that Robin has shown is exactly summarizes what is happening in the world today, basically, right? If you go back to crop wise, it's more about the cruciality would depend more on Brazil and Argentina. Where does Argentina end their crop majorly? We have seen like year-on-year growth of almost probably 20 million tons higher together, 2022, 25, whatever maybe, right? And the final number that is higher, and we have recently, like Kevin already spotted, about the recent, some of the issues that we might foresee a bit on the Brazilian rains or probably Argentinian weather, which remains very crucial in February. So, in addition to that, we already heard about drill, baby drill, which remains very crucial policy on the biofuel in US. So far, there's not much clarity on the 45Z that we call. That clarity, gives lot of momentum for the remaining markets. That is the reason the current markets have become more range bound. Markets waiting for Trump's impact on the tariffs, crops in Argentina, Brazil, how they shape up, and finally, where does this crops end? In addition to that, Russia and Ukraine. This is one of the major parameters that would continue to be tracked. We have seen, like for example, these last few days, because of after Trump getting into power, we've seen offers in sun oil, like Russian oil getting very traded super cheaper to India versus lesser availability of Ukrainian sun oil. All these factors would needs to be very closely watched, and how those impact the Indian market. In addition to that, we have not seen, the demand stagnation, or we call it demand destruction, a bit of demand destruction. Even the flat prices are lower. I'd leave more to comment on the palm oil to Sandeep ji in detail later, but the Indian demand has been, very volatile. Post Diwali, I would say, like Indian demand has been stuck up a bit, which we are waiting, and probably we should see more demand that is probably, in the coming seasons. We have Holi, Ramzan, Holi, and as well as, all these festivities in line coming up. That is where Indian demand probably would pick up, and then will probably give a right balance to the overall oil prices in India. Meanwhile, I would see like policy decisions. Will we get a clarity? I see very range bound, or probably we see $100-$150 price movement ranges upon the quality, upon the different oils that we see in CNF offers as well.
Prashant, one more question. Like, when we talk about the
Yeah.
government policy, right? Generally, like, for a layman, right, you would see that the oil basket was doing pretty well, not too much of inflation, while everyone was focusing on wheat and pulses. Right? Suddenly, government comes out with enhanced duties, that to
Right.
20%, and then actually Indonesia counters it with their own mechanism, and suddenly you see that humongous volatility. So for a layman, it looks like that actually, like, government put their hand in the honest nail. Is that thought process right, or would you like to educate the audience about that?
No, I mean, it was different if you look up from the government's perspective, giving a right price to the oil seeds was a high priority, right? Soybean prices, for example, was trading at much lower than minimum support prices, right? And even after that, even after the increase the duty, and
Exactly.
even today, the prices stayed much below, because at a point of time, we are the price, India, or we are at a bit, because of the global policies, global changes. We are the price takers at the moment, right? Being the largest consumer, also we tend to be more price takers, because the global geopolitics and other factors are super dominative over the commodity prices now. If it is only supply, and India probably being the largest buyer, then probably we might be a price discovered. But today, if you see, like, being a price discovery mechanism and being a price taker, there would be a slight difference. And that is where, even after the duty increase, it could not impact, but probably the more could have been a right balance of providing it, probably meal export incentives, followed by the duty incentives, and a combination, or some other mechanisms could have probably realized some potential on the oilseed prices as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because see, eventually, the reason for making this policy was to safeguard the farmers, but actually that has not happened. And maybe government, what they earned from the duties of import of edible oil, they should have passed it on to maybe soya meal industry, so that actually the prices could have been moved up. But that has not happened. We'll go to next stall. But now again, see, I'm so blessed that actually having such an awesome panel, right? And we go to Mr. Neerav, and Neerav Bhai again, like he's spearheading, right, the analytic market so well that actually, like, everybody looks towards him when they want to take decisions, right? Nearby, your initial view on, like, multiple aspects. One, we have seen that, as rightly mentioned by Prashant Bhai and Sandeep ji, that we are seeing the oil which was poor man's oil has become a premium oil, and the oil which was supposed to be some of the people like me who are obese, right, which Modi ji want not to consume much, right, has become actually, like, the lowest costing oil. So how do we, like, as a trader or as someone who is being in the processing industry, look at these scenarios and move forward?
Hi, Deepak ji, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here. So basically, this is the story of the food versus the feed. So I think this whole magic where the poor man's oil, palm, which used to trade at a decent discount from soya oil and sun oil, is now trading at a premium. And our Sandeep Bhanji, who's also there on the panel, calls it a golden oil nowadays, and it is selling at a golden price. So I think this is more due to, see, we saw that the Malaysian stocks were high during the month of October, November, December last year. Even instead of that, no, the prices were rallying, and now the Malaysian stocks are going down, and the prices are still going down. So I think the major reason is that the market is totally following the Indonesian SND and the Indonesian situation, because that's a bigger, larger producer and exporter. So Indonesia, I think they had a very ambitious B40 biodiesel implementation plan, which they declared. And in even November in Bali conference, a lot of debate was going. The ministers and the government was very clear that from 1st January, they will implement the B40. And the industry critics were like that this is not an easy thing to kind of start immediately. And I think that is the case that is happening, that till 30th of December or all that market was expecting that this B40 will be doing, because the minister again come in and saying that this is going to implement. But I think the implementation is slow. The POGO spread, the palm oil gas oil spread is not very conducive for biodiesel usage. And there are also options for the biodiesel refiners to pay a penalty and not use the biodiesel. So I think all that is happening. On the other side, yes, a bigger buyer like India, which used to buy about monthly 6 to 8 lakh tons of palm oil or palm products, has this month gone to a multi-year low of import of about 3.25 to 3.5 lakh tons of palm product only. And even after this low import, I would not say that the Indian stocks are very low, because we hit really the core demand of palm oil because of such a high price premium. So I think this is the biodiesel policy of Indonesia, which led to the high prices of palm oil and Result of that, all the destination markets like China, India have really drastically reduced their import to the point that this annually we are importing about 92 lakh tons of palm oil. This year will not be surprised that palm oil import might go down to 86 lakh tons. And the benefit of that is going to soya oil. I think the good soya production in Brazil, Argentina, even in US has really helped this, though there are weather issues in Argentina just now, even some late rains, which is delaying the Brazil harvest. But see, 2 million of reduction in Argentina, maybe a million and a half reduction in Brazil is still not a big number for changing the SND, especially on the meal side. I think the meal side, the bean side SND is very, very heavy. On the oil side, we saw after a gap of a year or two, again, we got some oil exported out of US, which is coming to India this month. So I think the supply in the Americas is quite good. And a small reduction also because of these weather issues just now is not really bothering. Rather, these markets are trying to get more and more share of India and the other destination markets, and they are continuously being aggressive. So I think this story is looking like it will merge maybe in the later half of the year, where palm might soften the spread, and soya oil, once it finds demand, will slowly improve its prices. But yeah, for now, at least for the near months, this gap is going to be there, though it is narrowed down from $120 spread to a $50-$60 spread. But going to a near zero spread may take April or May month. On the other hand, the sunflower situation is very, very different. Ukraine, the crush plants are shutting down and other things happening. But European markets can only import from Ukraine and the other countries, but not Russia. So I think Russia is finding it difficult to market their oil. And six ports, which is the benchmark of European markets, was trading few days back around $1,200. Just now is offered at 1,200, 1,210. Got traded into India at 1120, 25, 1115 just 2 days back and yesterday. So I think there is a big gap between Russian cargo and the Ukrainian cargo. So Russian cargo is selling in $50, $60 lower. So there is again a big spread because of that. So the crop is less, overall availability of sunflower oil is less, but the last moment exports and the Indian demand not being very good, as Prashantji said. This is also a very important thing for the world to know, that the Indian demand is not as robust and as strong as last 2 years, because the prices have rallied, especially with this 22% hike in duty. The prices in domestic markets have, I would say, started affecting the consumption pattern a little bit. The growth of the consumption is not as great as the last 2 years. So I think this is broadly the dynamics that we are seeing on the edible oil markets internationally and with the Indian perspective.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Meera-bhai. Really very detailed. And now we go to Sandeep Bhanji and the golden man with a golden touch with a golden oil. Sandeep bhai, over to you, sir. Actually, till April, do you see the market being range bound, or because of shortage till April, we might again see one more rally coming in the palm, just like it was just a few weeks back?
Sir, palm always surprises. So I won't deny anything, or I would say not possible. Anything is possible in palm. And we have seen that for last so many years. Before that, I just want to say something.
Sure, please.
We take it that palm prices have rallied because of biodiesel. A story of Indonesia. No, biodiesel was not the only story because of which price rallied. The biggest reason for the price rally was AI. So what Robin presented was at a perfect time, perfect thing for the industry to look into seriously, that yes, technology will drive our markets now. Technology will drive our futures trade. And I had heard it from the sources here in that 20% of our trade is now through AI. And that was the key reason of seeing a strong rally in the prices. So please look into Robin's presentation seriously. It might be very useful in coming times. Not very useful. It will drive our industry in coming months. And in fact, I tell it might be a bit of a time consuming for physical trades to happen via AI. But futures, it's all about technology, and technology will take over this futures trading from us. In terms of palms last year was a bumper year. It surprised everybody. It gives biggest surprise of the full year was that palm became the most expensive oil. Not only that, it also solved the India's biggest concern, which most of my friends in India would say, India एक dumping ground है olein के लिए. So what Palm did is said, okay, hold on. I'm no more going to be a dumping ground. I'm not going to give you huge amount of quantities of oil. So let's reduce this oil. We reduced exports to India and palm became off the shelf. Palm became most expensive. So dumping ground became a completely out of synchronization. So it was like, okay, what next? And it gave a perfect opportunity to India to relook into its local oil seeds to see how it can grow. It had a perfect opportunity to analyze it. How can they grow their oil seed emissions, various oils, to combat this theory of, to combat this assumption of palm is a dumping ground. But yes, palm has its own advantages, which is very hard to replace. The core demand is still there. The only thing is, it won't take much of a time for palm to come back into India because it's just a matter of price. Yes, the price, like I said, was rallied for different reasons. Once this price discount goes away, palm will be back in India with a bang. So that we have to be ready by mid of this year. And I can say of last couple of months, we had seen a really very sharp drawdown in demand from India. But today, I'm saying right now, in spite of higher prices, in spite of premium over soybean oil, I saw today a very good number of inquiries. Last 2-3 months में तो phone call ही नहीं आ रहा था किसी का. In a day, at the most one call. In a week, it was missing. No calls at all. And call anybody not ready to pick. But today, after a couple of months, I am seeing a lot of calls asking for nearby oil, ready to pay up the prices. Like previously, we would say, okay, my price is there, X price, and they would not like to even hear that. But today, they're just asking me, what price are you selling? So good to see today, India is back the way they used to be, and hopefully it continues.
So you rightly said that, like, India is definitely, like, we push a lot of market because the size of the population we are having. Going forward, also, if you see that, like, the overall consumption of Indian, whether our Prime Minister want us to reduce it by 10%, but he put obesity, right? So it was meant for people like me, not for everyone. So going forward, we are looking at, like, in next 6 to 7 years, the overall the veg oil requirement would touch 29 million metric tons. Do you still see that the palm still having that level of percentage, or you think, like, that overall market share of palm might reduce when compared to other veg oils? Maybe 1 year back, I would not even ask this question, but today I'm compelled to ask because of what has happened.
You see, that will depend a lot on the global supply and demand of how soybean oil crop shapes up in coming years, year on year. Palm, at least we know it's a continuous crop, but if this year we had a bumper crop in South America, because of that, palm was able to maintain a premium and soybean oil took most of the share of palms. But what if anything happens to next year or year after in soybean crop? The world will be again back dependent on palm. So it would be very hard to say that we will lose a market share. We'll see this palm continuously growing. And particularly from Indian perspective, India will have a very limited choice unless and until there's an aggressive push in the local oilseed crops, including oil palm.
No, that is, see, actually, government has put in, like, this, I'll say that very motivating, right, $1.2 billion worth of, like, push for doubling oilseed production in next 7 years. But we know that since 1984, we have been trying to have this through direct trade or the missions of palm oil sustainability or oil sustainability. That has not happened. So I don't see that also, like, going forward, the push of this amount of money is also, like, it will get addressing the issue which we are having, because our consumption is going to increase far more. Secondly, you quoted one thing about, like, Robin. So unfortunately, I've been always, right, 3 times it has happened that I have tried to push the AI envelope. 2015 created a company, pulled AI envelope, and eventually I have to sell it to, like, one of the German multinational into agriculture input. Second to sheikhs in Dubai, and now this is my third, like, push toward getting into AI. This time maybe, like, Robin will make me a billionaire, like, with whatever he's producing and making, and you have validated that. So now coming back, AI aside, Sandeep bhai, next 3 months, what should be the oil trader buying and what he should be going short for?
So this is a very tough question to answer in terms of what long or short. I always say that everybody has to do their own analytics in terms of buy and sell. But as a general anticipation of this side of market is like I was very positive about this market. I was in the morning. I was saying, will India come and buy? And all that story was in mind. And was thinking, okay, February is only 15 days. So I have said 4,300 to 4,600 range will last for the month of February. But what happens next is because there's an inverse of 100, 150 ringgit, will March come back to February levels? Lot depends upon Indonesian export taxes. We are going to see a drop in the Indonesian export tax and levy in the month of February. But what is going to happen in February is not clear. So it's very difficult to give a longer term forecast because we are a lot driven by the policies, and policies are all more spot policies than having any long term policy.
Right.
So February, I'm comfortable in 43, 45, 46 range, which is more likely more towards the 46 because we have only 2 weeks left for the futures market of February. March, we have to see whether it copes up to February's level or whether physical drops to futures level. Unlikely, but the way India is coming up today, I feel like March chances of going up are more.
Perfect. Awesome. Going to you, Neerav bhai, like, your views, like, where should I be long? Not I, actually, I don't trade. Definitely, like, policy is one area I actually indulge into, right? Getting below the skin of a lot of people as well as government. But Neerav bhai, actually, if somebody has to trade, like, where do you see that opportunity of taking a position, and what are the opportunities of, like, going short?
So I'll be very honest. I feel that the market is broadly a range-bound market. And rather than focusing on where to buy and where to sell, I think based on which month the demand that the importer refiner is seeing, no, he should be picking. I would say that based on the BMD or the flat price levels, the BMD around 4150, 42, the third month is supporting, which is about 100, 150 points. But it's not able to rally a lot above the current levels of 4290. So basically 4350. So 4150 to 4400, 4200 to 4400 is the BMD range. So depending on which month you want to buy and where you see the demand coming in. For bean oil also, I feel that for the March month, the market can have a little bit of demand here in India. But for AMJJ, yes, I would advise people to wait to see how does the weather finally clear out, because if the weather is perfect and there is no major upside or weather issues in the other markets like palm markets and other places, then bean oil in AMJ can further reduce a little bit because the selling pressure from South America is still there. Yeah.
Perfect. Going to you, Prashant, Sandeep bhai has already endorsed that we make a lot of money. That's good for LDC. I think, help other traders also, like, to make that, suitcase full of money. Your suggestions on how to trade?
No, very happy to know that Sandeep ji has been treating, has been a lot of confidence in us. But I'd say, like,
No, I was thinking of buying, if globally, if LDC shares are available, I was thinking about taking exposure.
Thank you. I would say, like, what Nirabai has said, like, it's more like the markets are in inverse. Global factors are dominating a lot. Policy-driven markets, right? Absolute policy-driven. And until I would say with these kind of inverse, whenever there's an inverse in the market, which means anything that you own is losing its value basically by end of next month, basically. But the only thing that I see is on the positive side is Indian demand that is pending for last few months. 2-3 months, which is either it is accumulated or or we come up with Holi and other things. So that is where I see nearby a bit optimistic on the Indian demand in the coming 4 to 6 weeks. I would say that is where I would see. But in the longer term, medium term to longer term perspective, India in general buys wherever we see, like, on a flat price wise, $1,000 to $1,100 is any commodity India has been buying in the last 1 year. Whenever you see something around $1,000, $1,100 or below $1,000, we're aggressive and other stuff. But I would rather suggest basically look at the inverses, look at the policy driven and more limited to the nearby replacement trading strategies. That would be really work because the margins are deep negative as well.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for very erudite advice, and thanks to others. Sandeep Bhai, Sandeep Bajoria ji. In fact, I'm lucky to have two Sandeep here. So Sandeep Bajoria ji, sir, your last word on how to make money.
Sandeep ji is busy selling. Too many calls for him today.
I said,
Yeah.
first is how not to lose money is important in our market. And that's the mantras in last 4 months has been very important. And then thereafter, you have to think about making money. But I'm very sure whatever tough time we had in second half November, December or Jan, and maybe up to 15 Feb, from March onwards, market is definitely going to be good, great to participate. Parities in India is going to improve. The processing will step up also properly. Domestic rapeseed mustard seed also will come in the market. And I believe it's going to be a good time for our trade and industry from March to again 6 months up to October, November. So that's a shining thing which I see in front of me. And as everybody has said, and my friend Sandeep Bhan, who is now CEO of one of the largest companies of the world, but he's also very popular in India because he has, Indian talent getting exported and then selling the oil from there. And he's liked because he's frank whenever he speaks, whenever he puts across his view. He's very frank about it. And that's what we like about him. So I think that's and today, as he rightly said, we have inquiries coming in for Feb shipment of palm oil. And people want to buy, people want to cover now. They've been waiting for pretty long. See, the January arrival are not more than 330,000 in palm. And February arrival also may not be more than 3.54 lakhs, maximum. Because Jan shipment is not more than 2.5. It is only the first half Feb shipment may come in the second half. So ultimately, when we go in the end of Feb, we'll find the palm here is absolutely not available. So in March, we need to supplement palm. And so second half Feb buying is definitely there in India right now. It's only a matter of negotiation, $5-10 here, there with Sandeep ji we were doing. So, but it's just a matter of time. I think next week we are going to trade palm very heavily. And I think India is going to buy at least 100,000 tons of palm next week. That looks like. And so I believe it's going to be great 6 months starting from March to October coming year for not only the oilseed refining industry, oilseed crushing industry as well. With these words, I thank Deepak Bhai and the team, and lovely to have all the great friends as panelists, Prashant ji, Sandeep ji, Nirav, and an interesting presentation from Robin as well. Jayesh Bhai is also there, but I don't know Jayesh Bhai personally so well, but definitely would like to connect with him. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Sandeep ji, and thanks a lot to all my panelists. And it was really interesting to learn from all of you, and we had a really good time in understanding overall how the oilseed markets are and what's going to happen to veg oil. One thing is that India will start with vigor importing veg oil again after a little bit of slump. Going forward, we are having two more agriculture roundtable. The next one is on the 14th of February, which would be touching upon ethanol and sugar, and then on 20th of February, which will be talking about pulses. We have kept pulses last because I believe at that time maybe some sentiments would have improved, because currently I don't think anybody wants to listen anything about pulses for sure. Tomorrow also we are having at 3 p.m. An overview of budget and how the budget is going to impact agriculture and food sector. With that, signing off. Thanks a lot. This roundtable was brought to you by Honeybee, KYC, and Global Grain and Pulses Council. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.